Marks again. I'm back with another Whispers of the Old Gods review. This one's going to be for the Priest cards. And then, same as with my other reviews, I'll try to build a deck at the end. So, overall, I think Priest is fairly disappointing. And, I mean, Priest is one of the decks where Cthulhu, it has this Cthulhu card. So Cthulhu deck might work. The real problem with Priest is, Priest was already pretty weak, and it lost Light Bomb, which is one of its best cards, and so I just don't know how Priest is gonna be able to pull off. In general, Priest, if they draw Aconite Circle, is still gonna probably be pretty good, but I feel like you're gonna have to still just play the Aconite Circle style deck, and then probably, maybe or maybe not, try Cthulhu with that. So let's go through the cards. Herald Village. Battlecry, summon a 1/1 copy of each for your other minions. I think this card is interesting, and obviously it's possible to get a bunch of value from it, but it seems kind of hard to pull off because it's hard to keep something in play long enough to get a benefit from its effect. If you compare this to a Mounted Raptor, for example, to get a Death Rattle, now this can obviously get on other things, but in theory, a Death Rattle should be easier to keep in play than other things, and Mounted Raptor's still this sort of fringe card that barely sees play, right? So I feel like this card's probably not good enough with the current pool of cards. Maybe in the future, if there's something that goes with it, it could be a lot better. But for now, you have to somehow maintain a board of 2 to 3 valuable minions and then play this, and that just seems pretty unlikely. Embrace the Shadow. This is just a combo card. This card's at least okay. The thing is like, there's potentially some kind of Priest deck where you're just going for a no TK, and the fact that this is 2 mana instead of 4 with the Aconite is sort of a big deal, because basically you can build some kind of deck where, for example, you're trying to like Velen, double Flash Heal, Mind Blast, something like that, obviously with some Emperor involved, and then the fact that this is 1 mana allows you to pull something like that off. So, like, for example, let's say we want a Velen double Flash Heal, Mind Blast with what is that? That's 11 mana, so you only need an Emperor on or no, that's 13 mana, so you need an Emperor on 3 of the cards, right? Hypothetically, if you're going to try to pull the same thing off with Aconite, it just would be almost impossible. You would need like an Emperor on all 4 cards or something crazy like that. So this might work. I think, like, it's certainly worth trying some sort of draw Priest deck that has a lot of draw and just tries to draw your whole deck and then do a Velen's Embrace the Shadow, 1 turn kill. The big weakness with that kind of strategy is the fact that, like, Warrior exists and they can just armor past whatever your kill condition is, and that's why that deck is probably not going to be good. Even Druid can armor, like there's a new Druid card that gives 8 armor, something like just that can just stop your whole thing. And then now all of a sudden you need extra damage, or you need to be able to do, hold the board and like actually do some consistent damage throughout the game, which is a lot harder when your whole deck is built with all these cards that are combo cards and stuff. So also maybe Alexstrasza could help you a little bit too. So I do think it's possible you can play some kind of like the Firebat 1 turn kill freeze Priest with this deck, or with this card, and it could be pretty good. Forbidden Shaping. This card is super flexible, and at first I was like, oh man, this is going to be so great. You can play an early drop when you need one, or you can just wait and play it on 8 and always get something pretty good. But the truth is those early drops are generally going to be so poor that it'd almost be better to not do it and just heal yourself, So like, instead of playing some bad 2 or 3 drop, you should just kind of heal yourself and hold it, and then instead of playing this on turn 8, you should just play Ragnaros. So I don't think it's good. I don't think it will be worth playing. This card is appealing. if we could say Cthulhu was a great card, then this would be a good card. Um, I'm not sure Cthulhu will be good. I do think Cthulhu has a chance of being good in Priest just because a lot of the Cthulhu minions are sort of like 2/3, 3/4, like 3/6. They're all like more defensive minions, and in general, those minions will be better in Priest because of the hero power. So something like a 2/3 in Priest is actually totally reasonable. You know, like we saw, like Zombie Chow was one of the best cards in Priest. Granted, it was for 1 mana, but a 2 mana 2/3 in Priest is still going to be pretty decent. I mean, like, and same thing with the 3/4 minion and Priest, like still pretty decent. I mean, they need to kill it or else you can get a lot of value from it, which is just pretty good. So I think Cthulhu, if Cthulhu works, Priest will be one of the decks where it has a chance. I mean, I don't think Cthulhu will be good enough, but this card, I mean, it's a lot of stats for 5 mana, and generally you would expect to get a 5/5. You're getting an extra 1 attack, and you're getting the potential 10 health. This is also like a game-changing card versus decks like Freeze Mage, where you know they're really they they still this doesn't mean you win by any means, but keep in mind you're a priest as well. So like since you're a priest and you can heal yourself for 2 every turn, it's a lot like so. The current iterations of Freeze Mage, a lot of times their plan is don't even worry about Alex and then just kind of burn chip you throughout the game and then just finish you off with a big burst, right? Well, that's harder versus Priest because they're going to have Flash Heal, they're going to have, you know, their hero power, so they almost need to get the Alex first, the Priest, and then this kind of directly counters the Alex, although obviously you need to kill the Alex too, so you're going to need to have like your Shadow Word Death in this, or a taunt in this, or whatever, you know, to deal with not taking 8 from an Alex, which is something legitimate to say. But this card's, if Cthulhu is good, obviously you'll play 2 of this card. I don't know if Cthulhu will be good. Um, I tend to think it will not, but in Priest I think it has a better chance than some other places. Shifting Shade, 4/3 Death Rattle, copy a card from your opponent's deck. I've seen people say this is great and stuff. I just don't agree. I think, so people are comparing this card to Thoughtsteal and saying, well, if you Thoughtsteal, it's 3 mana and you get 2 cards, and this is like the equivalent of Thoughtstealing and getting 1 card and a 1 mana 4/3, right? Um, which is sort of true, but at the same point, this card, like, so you're getting a card from your opponent's deck, which is strictly worse in a lot of ways than a card from your deck, right? Um, and everyone is saying that the 4/2 draw card is not great, including me. Like, it just seems like too slow and not great. But if that was a 4/3, would everyone be saying it was great? I don't think so. And this is basically that. This is a 4/3 draw card, and that card's not going to be one that synergizes with your deck. It can just still be Blade Flurry, even though Blade Flurry got nerfed in the ground. Rogues will probably still play that, right? It can still just be something you can't really use. It can be something amazing too, but like, isn't it better to draw a card from your own deck? So I think this deck or this card has like a sort of fringe case where if you're going to play a very fatigue-oriented, like grinder type deck, where you don't really want to draw cards out of your own deck because your plan is to really grind the game and fatigue, but you know, in that case, this card is it's maybe okay, but it's never great. You know, like it's never like a card where you're like Piloted Shredder, where you get like some huge tempo or board presence from it. You know, like it's very weak and easy to kill, and then the card you get's pretty speculatively good. So I think it's just okay at best. Shadow Word Horror. Um, this really just depends on what cards people are playing. Uh, if we think about like the most likely decks that would flood the board, this card seems at least okay because like if you think about like for example, Aggro Shaman. Aggro Shaman has a lot of like feral spirits. This deals with feral spirits and may kill an abusive or something as well. Um, it doesn't kill Totem Golem. It probably doesn't kill Tunnel Trog. Um, it kills Argent Horse Rider. So like versus like say an Aggro Shaman, this deck or this card situationally seems like it could be very good. You could like hypothetically kill like 2 Feral Spirit tokens and an abusive Sergeant, for example, and leave them with like one or two other minions in play after that. Versus zoo decks, like they're probably going to be playing Voidwalker Abusive. They're probably going to be playing Dark Peddler. They're probably going to be playing that card that generates tokens. I mean, this deals with all those things. Once again, though, it doesn't deal with everything, right? But it is 4-mana instead of 5, right? Like, so in Holy Nova may deal with 3/2s better than this does, but this deals with 2/3s better than Holy Nova, right? So it just depends on what people are playing. If people are playing a lot of 2/3s, this card's great. If people are playing a lot of 3/2s, this card sucks. So it just kind of depends on what people are playing. But it's at least situationally good, and so I think while it probably won't see play immediately, I think there are certain metagames where it will be a good tech choice. So it's a reasonable card to have around. It's nowhere near as good as something like Light Bomb, which can just pretty much always be good, because even in matchups where it's not great, at worst case it's like kill one big minion, or even worst case it's like draw a card with Acolyte or Northshire Cleric. So this card won't be as good as that. Also, it does kill your own minions too, which is another thing. It does kill your own 2/3s and also Northshires and stuff, so that is something to keep in mind too. So I think it's like kind of like a tech card, but I do think it's decent. Darkshire Alchemist seems like it's a great card. It's basically a better heal bot in a lot of ways, right? Like you get 3 less health, but you get a +1/+2 instead, which means the board presence of the card is even better than heal bot, and it also is even better than heal bot in another way, which is it can target a minion, or it can target your opponent if you have Akanai in play. So I think this card is amazing, and it's very, very strong, especially since Priest in general, can also, like, sort of more mid-range minion, like a 4/5 minion's better in Priest because it's so good with the hero power, right? Like, if it's not dealt with, then it can be healed, and we've seen a million times, like, the old 4/5 in Priest. For some reason, Cabal Shadow Priest, right? Like, you play the Cabal Shadow Priest, and obviously a big part of the value is stealing a minion, but a secondary part of the value is you have this 4/5, and then you just can, like, attack their 4/4 and heal it, and this same principle exists with this. And in fact, if you draw 2 of these, for example, like, let's say you play this and then they play an Azure Drake and then you hit it and then you play another one and heal it, it's just insane, so this card's really great. The one sort of downside of this card is if Cthulhu is the Priest deck, it almost limits you to a one of these, because you're going to want to play the 2 Twilight Darkmenders, I think. Maybe not, though. Maybe this is just better than the Darkmender. Maybe you're playing 1 Darkmender and playing 2 of these just because this one's more flexible, and you only get 5 health instead of 10, but you also get a lot more flexibility, and I mean, obviously a 6/5 is a better body than a 4/5 by quite a bit too, so probably you end up playing one of these. But so the fact that it does overlap with another card means that in Cthulhu style decks you're probably not going to be able to play 2 of these, which kind of sucks, but it is a good card. I like this card. I think this is the card I like the most in the Priest cards. Next card, Power Word Tentacles. This card's way too slow, and frankly, like, the biggest sort of letdown of this card is, like, it just seems like lazy to me, like they've already got a Velen's Chosen, which Velen Chosen is just so much better than this card. The difference of 2 health on this versus the 4, the difference of 6 health on this versus 4 in Velen's Chosen is sort of meaningless. The 1 spell damage is way better than that, or, well, it's not way better. It's probably not even better, but it's debatably good, like the spell damage is another useful thing. Giving something 4 health probably still going to make it so big that, like, it's good enough. So this is 2 extra mana. It's just completely unplayable if Velen's exists, and even in Standard it's pretty much completely unplayable. And it's just kind of lazy. It's just like, let's throw this card in because we didn't think of anything better in my mind. So I don't... It's, there have to be some bad cards, right? But this just seems lazy to me. I don't know. Just my opinion. Hooded Acolyte. This card's pretty good. The actual healing Cthulhu effect is debatably good, but the fact that it's just a 3/6 for 4 is great. You know, if you think about Water Elemental, it's always really hard to deal with, and the freeze effect matters, but just a 3/6 for 4 is always pretty good. Um, Thinking about the dragon as well, Twilight Guardian, obviously that one has taunt. Um, just a 3/6 for 4 is a pretty nice body, and nice bodies are better in priest than other classes, as I said before, because of the hero power. And in general, you know, you're gonna be healing this probably a lot in other things, so it's probably gonna buff a Cthulhu. It's likely it can survive, so it seems like a pretty good card. Um, One sort of downside with this card is, once again, like, so when you build these decks, you have to think about the mana curve, and there are other cards like, I don't think you're going to be able to build decks without Auchenai Circle. I just, it seems unlikely to me, um, because you don't have Light Bomb anymore, and yeah, it seems unlikely. It's possible. Maybe if you can build some sort of really board-centric mid-range deck that takes the board early with Priest, maybe you just don't need a big AoE, and maybe Holy Nova's enough. Then in that case, like, maybe you don't need to run Auchenai Circle, but it seems more likely you're going to want an Auchenai Circle. And then once again, when you have 2 Auchenais in your deck, then this play is another 4-drop that's competing with that slot. So I still think it's a good card. Overall, I mean, so I do, you know, like I said at the beginning, I was kind of disappointed with the Priest cards in general. There are some good cards, though. I mean, the Dark Mender, if Cthulhu decks are good, will be good. The Alchemist is a good card, and the Alkalite is a good card. I do not believe they got any fantastic great cards. I mean, the Darkshire Alchemist is probably the best card, but even that's probably like, you know, a very strong card. It's probably not even, it's probably like a good card. It's not like a great card, you know, so in my mind. But then the other problem is they lost their best card, which was Light Bomb, or one of their best cards, which was Light Bomb. And so, I mean, it feels to me like Priest is going to really be slotted into just playing Dragon Priest, which has been shown, at least in the previous iteration, it just wasn't quite strong enough. It may be strong enough with, you know, all the classes losing things and being a bit weaker, and Dragon Priest doesn't lose a whole lot, but it does lose one very important card, which is Velen's Chosen. Velen's Chosen was one of the best cards in Dragon Priest. It also does lose Zombie Chow, which wasn't always played in Dragon Priest, but I feel like in the best Dragon Priest they generally had Zombie Chow. Um, so, yeah, overall I think Priest is probably in one of the worst spots in the metagame. Probably I would say it's like the worst deck, or maybe the second worst deck as far, or class in the standard metagame. All right, so as usual in my previous card reviews, I'm going to build a deck, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and try to build a Cthulhu deck, just because, I mean, I could go build a Dragon Priest and it would have, like, you know, Darkshire Alchemist in it or something, but it'd just be pretty standard of what you've seen before. So if I go ahead and build a Priest deck here, I might as well try to build a Cthulhu deck and see how that goes. So first thing to keep in mind is, so as I've said in many other videos, I think the best way to go with Cthulhu is to try to build a more mid-range strategy rather than trying to build a really controlling strategy. So I think playing Twilight Elder, I wouldn't always want to play Twilight Elder, but I think playing Twilight Elder and Priest is good just because it is another Cthulhu Synergy card. It will give you a lot of value if it sticks around. They're not going to want to let it sit around, so it's kind of like a 3/4 taunt in a lot of ways. And the fact that you have a hero power is gonna work really well with it. I'm not sure I would actually play this if I was playing, say, Warrior Cthulhu. Maybe, but like Priest Cthulhu, it seems a bit better. Cthulhu's Chosen is an interesting one. So the thing I like about the Cthulhu Chosen is you play it before. So ideally, you want to get most of your Cthulhu cards before you're going to play your does compete with this and Auchenai. Maybe we'll just try without Auchenai and see if we can pull it off, I guess. If we're going to try without Auchenai Circle, maybe I can play 2 of these as well. And just so I want to play all my Cthulhu buff cards to be before I play this one, so that this one's pretty much very likely to be live. And then probably, I don't know, we could try this Herald Village. I mean, since our plan is to be like a board control deck, we can try playing this. I don't know. If you have 2 minions in play and you play it, do any of these minions actually do anything if they're in play? The Hooded Acolyte, I guess, does something. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably not going to play that. It doesn't really synergize very well. We're obviously going to play the Twin Emperor. I don't think we're going to bother with the Doom Color. I just can't see that being good. Alright, so there's our Cthulhu Shell. Now we'll look at our curve. Now, if our goal is to be like sort of a more mid-range board control deck, we need more early board. We're obviously going to play the Northshire. We're obviously going to play the Powerword Shield. I don't know if Museum Curator might be too weak to play. I mean, the worst part is a lot of the best early board cards are basically Dragon cards. And could you really play Dragon and Cthulhu? It seems unlikely, right? Like, I have 20 spaces left, and I'm still going to want some, like, Holy Nova probably at least, you know, as far as priest cards. And probably going to want to play Cabal Shadow Priest. And like 1 Entomb, probably like 1 Shadow Word Death, maybe. Well, that's another comment. One thing that is nice for Priest, the Big Game Hunter nerf is actually great for Priest. Priest didn't play Big Game Hunter anyways, and they played Shadow Word Death. If people want to play a ton of huge things, we can just play 2 Shadow Word Deaths. So the main problem I have with this deck, as I look at it already, is it's just super slow. I think we're going to have to go to one of these. So what we really need is, we may need to go to one of these too. We need more early game, right? And we're probably going to want to play some Holy Novas. Oh, we already have Holy Novas. That's good. We have our Entomb. Alright, so we need more early game. Right now our curve looks pretty much perfect for late game. We have the 6 drops. We have our 1 7 drop, 1 10 drop. That's good enough for late game. We have our 2 5 or 3 5 drops and 2 Holy Novas, so that's certainly enough late game cards. We're just going to run all Cthulhu cards, so we're not running Auchenai Circle. Running 1 Twilight Elder and 2 Disciples, 1 Shadow Word Death. So to really make this, to really curve this out, we almost need like 4 more 2 drops or something, you know. If I want to build like a proper mid-range deck, I need more 2 drops. I could play the Twilight Geomancer. Giving Cthulhu Taunt doesn't matter too much, but just having, well, this is more of a control card than a mid-range card, though. I want to play more mid-range cards. I mean, I could play the Museum Curator, but Museum Curator with no Velens just seems so much weaker. Well, I'm probably going to play Pyromancer, I guess, right? Even though I don't have too many spells to go with it. Hardly none. It's still a 3/2, and you still just have a Power Word Shield or a coin or whatever, so playing that's still good. And we do have a few more slots, so ideally if I can find 2, like for example, one thing I can think of, pretty decent early game board control card is Shadow Word Pain, so I can play one of those. And Are there any one drops that would work? Not really. I mean, Zombie Chow would just be fantastic in this deck, obviously, but we don't have access to that. I mean, ideally, the whole point is that we want to have some sort of board early. And so I really feel like another 2-drop would be what I want in this deck. Maybe Garrison Commander's okay, or Flame Juggler. Maybe we just play Flame Juggler. Flame Juggler's a good, really good minion and priest, I think, because the juggle certainly is useful. All right, so right now I have a good curve. You know, I have my only a couple 1-drops, but then I have 6 2-drops with the Shadow Word Pain. We have 3 3-drops, which is a pretty good number. 4 4-drops. 1 Dark Alchemist, 2 Holy Novas, 2 Dark Menders, 2 Cabals and an Entomb, the Twin Emperors and the Cthulhu. Alright, this deck looks okay, actually. This could be decent. The thing is, so when I evaluate, like, can this deck be good? I mean, I would just think, like, okay, what am I going to do versus Aggro Shaman, right? So if I'm playing versus Aggro Shaman, let's say they go first and they play Tunnel Trog, right? Well, I mean, my only turn 1 play is Northshire, so, or I guess I can coin. Can I coin anything that deals with it? I can coin a Shadow Word Pain. Seems kind of weak, right? I mean, Tunnel Trog, first turn Tunnel Trog, just like, does that just beat me? It may. Because then no matter what I do, then let's say they play Totem Golem. Maybe I need to just play 2 Shadow Word Pains, right? That also makes the Pyromancers a little better. Maybe I can get away with not playing Flame Juggler and just playing Shadow Word Pain as my 2-drop, and then maybe I can play something. 2 Shadow Word Pains, 2 Pyromancers, 2 Beckoner of Evils. Maybe I just do play 2 Shadow Word Death. I'm just thinking once again, like, how am I beating like Aggro Shaman ever with this deck? And even if I somehow don't die to their Totem Golems and stuff early, then they play the old 7/7 on turn 4. I think Shadow Word Death might just be one of the best cards anyway, because Big Game Hunter goes away, people are going to want to play a lot more big minions, so just having Shadow Word Deaths is great. Do I want to cut this Twilight Elder for something different? Do I want to cut Darkshire Alchemist? Seems great, but maybe it's just too much 5-drops. This is one of the hardest decks to build, I think. So I think 2 Shadow Word Pains helps me a lot in early game matchups. Power of Glory is actually an interesting card. I do think this card is actually really good and probably underplayed, mainly because it was so hard to fit in decks, but this card is effectively a 1-mana removal for a lot of cards, right? Like if you put this on a Totem Golem or something, like, gives you a lot of time to deal with it. But probably not going to play that. Play one Shadow Madness, that helps a lot with the early rush decks too. Could play Excavated Evil, but Culling Nova's better in this more mid-range deck. Okay, so playing two Pains, this is kind of a little controversial, but let's think about all the different classes and see, like, is that worth it? Like, what classes are there? Whoops, I hope I didn't lose my deck. So Verse Warrior, Armor Smith will probably be played, and maybe Cruel Task or stuff like that. Also, like, Fierce Monkey. So seems pretty good against like more mid-rangey warrior decks. Versus Control Warrior, you can kill Acolyte, Armor Smith stuff, so it seems okay. Versus Warlock, it's almost certainly going to be good because they're probably going to be playing some sort of Zoo deck. Killing a Flame Imp with that's amazing. Versus Shaman, it's great. Versus Rogue, it used to be pretty mediocre because it would only have a few targets, but I think they're pushing Rogue towards Death Rattles. But even so, you can kill an SI-7. You can kill Unearthen Ring Farseer. So, you can kill Violet Teacher. So it's actually fine versus Rogue. Versus Priest, it's obviously fine. Versus Paladin, it's got to be fine, right? Like you would think Paladin's going to be playing a decent amount of things it can kill. Versus Mage, it can kill Mana Worms and Sorcerer's Apprentices and Water Elementals, so it seems great there. Versus Hunter, I mean, it's not as good because you're probably going to end up killing like the old Wolf Rider or something, but it's still going to kill something, and it kills the 2/4 Animal Companion. Kills some of their early plays. Versus Druid, I mean, I think Druids are going to play for Violet Teacher, so it does kill that. It kills Aspirant stuff. So yeah, I actually think 2 Shadow Word Pains is actually the call. And it looks like I didn't lose my deck. So yeah, I like having the 2 Shadow Word Pains as well because it just works with the Pyromancer. I don't know that Cthulhu's Chosen will be good, but the main thinking process is this is more of like a mid-range board control minion, and so if we can get a board advantage with some of our other like 2, 3, 3, 4 type stuff in the first few turns, and then play this, it's pretty good. Well, I still think that maybe I'll just play one Flame Juggler or something. Just I want to have like another early game board control minion. So yeah, something like this seems like pretty decent to me actually. Better than I would have thought. Maybe this will be better than I thought initially. Alright, well that's it for the Priest review. Next time I will be doing Rogue cards. And thanks for watching.